Hello, and welcome to Lesson 5, Creating a Graph. Here is the last lesson in Section 1, Organization. Now, when you get to this sheet, if you're following along, you'll see that there is a function here that I made. There's an apostrophe at the start, and that just makes it into text rather than the formula. So if you remove that, we'll actually be able to do this filter. Now, what a filter does is exactly like what we were using in the last one, which was filtering out data. Here, it is pulling all of it from build a table, and here it is saying anything that in column A that is not equal to nothing or a blank one. So it'll pull all text, but none of the blank rows. So once you remove that, you can just push enter, and now we have all of this information. Now, here, just notice if you select some and you try to delete it, you can't, because this is being filtered from over here. So this would all be spill in this array. Another thing is if you try to edit it, like if you want to make this a 2 and you hit enter, you'll get this ref error and it'll say it cannot expand because of something in B4, which was that 2 that I just put. So deleting it will then have it come in again. If you want to change something, you have to go to the main source of data, and then here you can edit. Just undo because I don't want a J there in the person ID. Now, to get started, I'm going to highlight the entire columns because I want to, just show if there's more data being added, how the graphs can actually continue to be dynamic and add those changes. So I'm going to make a chart. Here, the start, it just doesn't really make sense. If you look, it is taking the names on the x-axis and then person IDs on these as a series or y-axis, and it just doesn't make sense. So honestly, I'm just going to remove everything, remove all series, and just start from scratch. So first off, I'm just going to do a count of the asset types. So if you push aggregate, that's actually going to add all of them. You'll notice that the asset type is included there. So if you want to use a header row, you'll have to make sure to select that column and it'll leave and then show what these are. If you click the specific part of the chart, it'll open up the dialog box to be able to adjust it. Data labels are one that I personally use a lot because that is just helpful to actually see the number that they are being counted. So here we have that. You can also optionally change the color if you want. You can have some different like line thicknesses, and the colors, you can make it there if you want some color to it. You can switch the left and right axis to these, and more customization like 3D or so on. So there's a lot that you can do. Column charts I think are the most useful. You can, oops, I did not mean to, I'm just selecting the chart, copying, Control C, and then Control V to paste. One that's very similar to it is the pie chart. Now this is in the suggested, so it's actually going to switch it to asset type. And here, the legend is actually automatically doing what it is. So desktop, computer, iPad, and giving the percent. You can also change the colors. So the desktops you could change. You can make the center if you want this one to be kind of shown more. I'm just going to put it back. And then you can do labels like values. Now in this one, if something's missing, you might just have to resize it. Now, pie charts and these column charts, they're similar, and some people have a preference of which one they prefer. Honestly, the column chart in almost every situation will be better. The only time I think this might be a little bit better is if there's like a very large percent of something. For example, of what I do, having a status for a ticketing system, I think that is easier to read because we have upwards of 80 to 90% resolved. And so, let's say we just have more data of, a ton of damaged computers. I just copied, and then I'm going to Command Shift V, which is paste the value. And I'll just do that for a few more. So I'm just going to go down. I mean, this is going to be way too much, but we'll just do that. And again, looking at these ones, it's a little bit easier for me to see this then, I mean, this one, again, you can kind of tell for both of them, like this is a giant number and these are smaller. So even still, it's kind of like, well, you could use either one. But for me with the status, this seems better. The tricky part is like here you can kind of see how these ones compare versus here it's a little bit harder because it's like, well, oh, okay, I guess that's 2%. There's no way to know that. Here you can kind of see a little bit better with the numbers being there. So again, it's kind of just up to what your data is. I just pushed Command Z, because I'm going to remove those ones and go back here. So I'm going to copy this again and paste. Oops. Here we go. And I'm just going to edit the chart. So I usually, when I have it kind of set up, I just copy and paste to keep the styles and stuff. I mean, really the lines, I probably honestly wouldn't use these. I just not have any. But in any case, it's just easier where it'll keep the same data and then you can just switch the axis. So I'm going to switch it to the condition. For this one and the condition, you can kind of see that it almost looks like it's going from the largest to the smallest. And honestly, you'd probably want like new, good, okay, damaged, or like damaged, okay, like, kind of having it ordered by the condition. But there's no way for you to really organize it in that other than like it makes sense to us as, well, humans. But for the computer, it doesn't really, there isn't a way to do that unless there's, a helper column that you say numerically, I want damaged first. So put ones by all the damaged, okay, you would put a 2, good, you could put a 3, and then new 4, and then you could order it by that. What's actually happening, the first one in these will be whatever is at the top. So good is first, and then desktop, and then it'll go down, and then the next is computer, and new, and then okay, and then there's iPad, and then computer again. So computer is just added to this aggregation or count of computers, and then that's all for those. Here, damage is next. So if you want to reorder this, you'd actually have to order your data. So I'm going to go back to build a table, and let's just say that we order it by asset condition A to Z. So now it's going to be damaged first, then good, then new, then okay. So going back to it, you can see that those adjusted. Even the computers were first and then desktop, then iPad. Here, damaged, then good, new, okay. So it's not, again, how I was saying. I would probably put it like in just like worst condition to best condition. However, another thing you could do is you can go into this, click the specific one that you want, and you can actually change the color of it. So like damage could be red. Good could be like, I don't know, maybe yellow. New, we could do blue. Okay. I might actually do okay as yellow. Let's make that just green. Good is green, I guess. And, visually, you can kind of see like damage, like red usually means danger. Yellow is kind of, okay, or green and blue. If you are doing something like that, it's still always good to have the labels, just in case there's someone who can't identify colors as well on your team, or who might be reading the graph. Just be considerate of, everybody looking at your data. So here, that's some customization that can help. Again, there's a lot more graphs you can do. Let's copy and paste. Start this off again. We'll look at one more, which is the line. I don't have great data for it, but, just looking through here, there's like maps and there's some other like radar charts. I don't think I've used that actually. Organizing tree maps. Yeah. So there's a lot that you can explore. Lines would be the last one. And let's maybe use the checkout date. Now, it's not super helpful because our dates are just kind of, well, in this case, they're all over the place. So, looking at this, I'm going to rearrange my data again. But, you might be able to get some insights. And I'm just going to do this from A to Z, and that'll put the smallest dates to largest. So, this kind of gives you, most of the time it's like 1 per date, and then there's 2, and then like this is a significant date where there's 8 checked out. So, maybe a big group of new hires or something like that. But, the lines, you can get some more data like that, or kind of over time generally is how you'd use them. But, you could have the same thing here. It'll just kind of go up, down, like a few points to it. So those are kind of the main basic ones. I have used all of them for different things, and this is kind of where I would use it. Again, this is a smaller data set, so it's not as insightful, but still, you can make it look a lot nicer, cleaner, and be able to present it easier in a way that's more understandable for your audience or for whomever might be looking at it. The last thing that I'll just show and mention, we're not going to make it here, but just in case, back at this first one, that this is a stacked column chart, and that might be something that you want to make at some point. And how you do that is, instead of just having all of it be on one column like this, you have to make columns, or multiple columns and rows for your information. And so then what happens is that this here is getting stacked up by each of these columns, and then each row is assigned a specific color. And then that's where, it stacks up based off of each column and there. So, you can't unfortunately just take this and say, well, hey, pull if it's good and a desktop and put it in one, or new and a computer. It doesn't work there. You have to put it into this format of rows and columns. It's very easy to make this with pivot tables if you're familiar with those. If you're not, we'll look at those at a later lesson. So hopefully this helps you with visualizing your data. This is the end of organization. Other than, of course, there is a challenge. And really, this is expected, or, the goal is try to do this on your own. Everything in here, the different steps or ones that we've looked at within the different lessons. So go ahead and try this on your own. See if you can complete all of these. And then if not, or if you want to check your answers, I'll put a video of me going through them and explaining them a little bit more. But everything here is something that we've learned. So see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.